So, title of this article is Bernie or Bust Had Enough of Hillary's Bullshit. And we will not just go left. We will go home, or independents will go elsewhere. So let's go back to the beginning of all this mess. It really got intense right before the elections. There were lots of accusations being thrown around about the Clinton campaign and the DNC cheating Bernie Sanders in the primaries. DNC Chair Debbie Schultz had been lying and saying that she was neutral between Clinton and Sanders, and supporters could see she was full of shit. She wouldn't allow any debates. They were all blatantly scheduled during high-profile sporting events or on very off days and times in order to keep people from hearing and or resonating with Bernie's popular and progressive message. When WikiLeaks jumped into center stage with proof about everything Sanders supporters had been alleging, it was vindication for some. But the only thing we gained was Debbie's head by removing her as the DNC chair. After WikiLeaks released emails that proved she was tilting the scales for Clinton and working to undermine Sanders, she had to step down. Of course, the same day she was fired, Hillary hired her immediately to take away the progressive victory. And that stung quite a bit for supporters who had proof the elections were rigged now, and yet still no path forward to help Sanders win. The cheating that took place did not stop and made Bernie supporters exhausted from screaming and not being heard. Until WikiLeaks exposed the DNC as the cheaters they were, the attacks on Sanders were constant and a cruel joke for a country that calls itself democratic. The most obvious of cheating occurred in Las Vegas, where supporters were turned away, delegates were dismissed without merit or disqualified without reason. The expectations of fairness quickly eroded from biased leaders in charge, and time again they changed the rules out of order, make announcements that were unclear, declare victory during chaos. And in the end, it was the Bernie bros that were labeled as violent on a lie. And they became disenfranchised when votes were ignored, overlooked, and overruled at every level. The supporters that were not in Vegas watched it all unfold online and became disgusted with the DNC. Many Democrats denounced the party officials and the unfair practices it used against Sanders and saw the entire process as an unforgivable moment. Bernie or Bust was born and, of course, ignored and smeared. Hillary Clinton's problem first began because voters thought she should have been found guilty of mishandling classified and top-secret documents that were stored on her private, undeclared servers set up in secrecy in the basement of her home. But after her husband stepped onto Attorney General Loretta Lynch's plane and had an unusual and unethical moment to privately talk, the investigation turned sour. FBI Director James Comey made statements about the investigation indicating that he thought she was guilty. So this left no wiggle room to find her innocent, when every time she opened her mouth she was caught lying. The American people were tired of a two-tiered justice system that constantly over-sentences the poor and always exonerates the rich. Even if she would have been found guilty and paid a very high fine, at least that would have been something. People may have said, okay, she's atoned and now we can all move on. Voters may have even felt sorry for her having to go through that during such a high-profile election. But the fact that she got away with it, whether it was Bill or not, is as arrogant and in-your-face overprivilege as America could stand. In reality, it became very self-defeating, and it became the pivotal moment that the insinuated corruption solidified in the minds of voters, and Trump became leader by default. All the things Bernie supporters had been screaming about, worried about, cried about, and fought against came true. If that did not do her in completely, then the choice to not elect Sanders as her VP definitely did. Bernie or Bust never disappeared and never forgave the DNC for its cheating, rigging, and smearing during the primaries. Then, the elitist bitch sticks her middle finger up and chooses a right-wing nobody and pisses off a bunch of angry voters in her own party who had had enough of her bullshit. She lost the progressive base and with them, the presidency, allowing Trump an easy victory in the end. Losing the Rust Belt was only possible because of her arrogance that made her act and think like she had this thing locked up so tight she thought she could say fuck you to the Bernie supporters and still win. Well, how'd that work out for you, bitch? Because I know how it worked out for us.